This brochure was created by North Carolina Real Estate Commission to inform the consumer, that's you, either the buyer or seller, about the types of agency relationships available with your real estate agent. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. So the first thing that I want to emphasize is this is not a contract. This is just a brochure. It's information that licensed professionals such as myself are required to disclose to you so that you can make an informed decision when hiring. It explains what the realtor's duties are to their clients if an agency agreement is signed and what kinds of representation you may choose. The first type of relationship explained in the brochure is the agent of a seller. So if you're selling a property and you want an agent to represent you, then you would sign a listing agreement, which is a contract between you and eXp Realty, the firm. Now, notice that I said the firm, not the agent. While the individual agent is the one you've chosen to work with, the entire firm has a responsibility to you upon signing this agreement. So the brochure gives you a list of fiduciary duties, basically meaning the duties that you can trust that we'll perform because the law requires us to do so. So let's talk about these point by point. So I must obey your lawful instructions. For instance, you choose the listing price, when showings are allowed, where I can advertise, and the list goes on and on. I'm here to advise, not to dictate. I must be loyal to you and promote your best interests. I cannot and will not put my own needs above your own. And I must disclose material facts, which are facts that could influence one's decision about a property. But don't worry, disclosure doesn't mean that I'll share your personal information. That's a separate category and it's next on the list. So I must keep your information confidential. I can't share any personal information about you or to anybody without your express permission. But until you've signed a listing agreement for your sake, don't share anything personal with me. If you and I don't have a signed agreement, I'm legally obligated to share what I know to any buyers that I might represent in the future. I must account for any monies that are involved in the transaction. It's part of my job to make sure I handle due diligence or earnest money in a responsible manner and to make sure I follow the law when it comes to any money I might come in contact with. Lastly, I must use reasonable skill, care, and diligence in representing you. People work with real estate agents on the assumption that we're the expert in the field. And so we must live up to that by being professional, always staying up to date on our real estate knowledge. When you sign a listing agreement, the agent will offer you the ability to opt for something called dual agency. This would allow for the agent or firm to represent both the buyer and seller at the same time. And when you check this box, it doesn't mean you're automatically going to be in this kind of situation, but it does allow your agent to bring buyers that they're working with to view your home. Dual agency would limit the agent's duties to you. At that point, it would be required to be honest and fair to both parties and act more as a mediator. Now, in the contract, there's this option to do something called designated dual agency. In this case, each party would have their own agent, but both agents may both be with eXp Realty. You'd have me only representing you, and the other eXp agent would represent only their client. Now let's talk about buyers. As a buyer, you have options as well. You can either, as option one, do an exclusive buyer's agency agreement, and this is beneficial for both you and me because it provides you all the same fiduciary duties that were available to the seller: obedience, loyalty, disclosure, proper accounting, and reasonable skill, care, and diligence. It's also beneficial for me because it means that you're not working with any other brokers to find a home. Option two, you may agree to allow dual agency with either me representing both you and the seller, or designated dual agency again, where both of us happen to be from eXp Realty, but I only represent you and they only represent their seller client. Option three, you can choose to solicit the help of a sub-agent. In that case, make sure you don't tell me anything personal or confidential because my duties would be to the seller, not you. EXP does not allow this kind of agency, so we will not be doing a sub-agency agreement. A buyer agreement does not have to be in writing from the onset, but keep that in mind that one has to be signed before an offer can be made on a home. I'll be sending you a copy of this brochure via email or in person. Please sign the form and return it to me as soon as possible. And remember, this is not a contract. Your signature just means that I've done my job in explaining the disclosure to you. And if you have any questions, of course, reach out to me.